We hear a lot about sea level rise and the effects of sea level rise on Hampton roads. Aside from New Orleans, there's no major American population center that is more threatened than Hampton Roads. But we also deal with it here in the 94th District. What can be done at the state level, but also what can be done at the local level about sea level rise? How big of an issue do you see that in the district, and what can be done about it? And this goes to Ms. Simonds first.
Well, there is an interesting effort to have a regional cap and trade program. It's called REGI, and it's been introduced by Ron Villanueva over a number of years and hasn't managed to get out of committee. But it would produce revenue to help localities with sea level rise. And so I do support regional cap and trade initiatives in order to have some revenue to help with sewer systems that need to be rebuilt. We see the Navy already doing a lot of work on this in Norfolk because, you know, sea level rise is a real issue here. I do think we need to do more with the alternative energy sector. As I mentioned before, there's a lot of things we can do at the state level to encourage investment in offshore wind. We can create tax credits for alternative energy that the alternative energy has to be generated in Virginia. Right now, they get credit for energy that's generated in other states. We can also work with investors who might want to come and invest in offshore wind. So I think we're really missing the boat here on alternative energy production in Virginia. You know, North Carolina has produced way more jobs than we have in this area. And I think it's going to take being proactive in the General Assembly to do it. And I think it might take standing up to Virginia Dominion power as well.
Okay, Mr. Yancey, we're almost done. Then you can clap up to your heart's content. Mr. Yancey.
My opponent is absolutely right. Before I got elected, Virginia was losing out to states like South Carolina and Florida on important things like solar energy. And then I got elected, and then I introduced a lot of the legislation that's now law that my opponent's talking about, on solar, on wind. We can now power homes, neighborhoods, Denby Elementary, Cannon. A lot of what I've introduced and has passed is because of the legislation that I've introduced that brings up solar power to one of the best that we've ever been prior to when I got into the legislature. And the bill that Delegate Villanueva had introduced, I supported. In fact, I remember when you contacted my office and I said, here's the information, contact them, let's see what we can do to work together. So this is an issue that I take very importantly. In fact, it's an issue I take so importantly that for those of you who live in Hilton, when the governor took budget language out on stormwater local assistance fund, I put that money back in. I fought to get that money back into the budget. Now, it didn't make it. But I'm fighting for our local community because I know this is an important issue for the people in Hilton. And I know this is important about pollution runoff. And I know this is important about the concerns that people have. You know, we had talked about what had happened in Houston. I think this is a great learning opportunity for all of us in this room to look at what happened in Houston and say, what do I have to do for my own insurance? What does Virginia have to do for reservoirs, for whatever we can do about coastal protection? And like my opponent and I both agree that Delegate Villanueva had good legislation. But we're already doing things. And I'm doing things. And I've put in that legislation. There's a reason why Facebook has come to Virginia and has opened up that center up in Henrico. And there's a reason why Virginia is able to go out and promote our solar legislation to these companies to come to the Commonwealth and to set up shop here because of the solar legislation I introduced. And I know that we're on the right pattern, and I know we're doing the right thing, and this might come as a big surprise to everybody in the room, but I must be doing something right because the Sierra Club, of all people, gave an award to a Republican because of the legislation I've introduced on solar and on wind power.
Great. Ms. Simon, you have the opportunity for a rebuttal if you'd like.
Yes. So I just don't think we're doing enough because North Carolina is beating us. They have twice as many jobs in solar as we do here. And in terms of environmental groups supporting you, I am endorsed by the Sierra Club and also the League of Conservation Voters. And I just want to say really quickly that who you vote for really does matter on the environment. My opponent has a 54% career rating from the League of Conservation Voters. And because I was a teacher, I know that 54% is an F. And our late Senator John Miller, who I supported, and I really wanted him to get up to the Senate because the prior senator had a 50% voting record on the environment. When Senator John Miller got up there, it became an 100% voting record on the environment. So who you elect on environmental matters is really important.
Okay, great. And this is second to the